All right, excellent timing here. We're here with Jon and David at Abra. They announced the PFS about a month ago, and today, this morning, they announced a milestone investment with Kinross and Puerto Central. So I guess let's just start kind of recapping. Can you give us the synopsis of the PFS before we get into the very fresh and interesting stuff here?
Thanks very much for having us back. As you mentioned, excellent timing for us. We just announced a milestone investment today. Happy to talk more about that shortly. But yeah, in terms of recapping the pre-fees, we're very happy with the results of that pre-fees, which was released about a month ago, back in late March, based only on proven probable reserves, which is from two main deposits, the Oculto zone, and of course that new Jack discovery that we made back in 2023. We already have very robust results. And so this is a mine life already about 13 years, processing 9,000 tons per day. So very good scale there, based only on the oxides, of course. And what really stands out, I think, is that the first 5 years of the mine plan, when you're processing Jack and you're processing the higher grade material from the main Oculto deposit, the grades are extremely high. So the average grades for the first 5 years average about 210 grams per ton on a silver equivalent basis. Interestingly, if you use a 70 or 80 to 1 silver to gold ratio, that's approaching 3 grams per ton on a gold equivalent basis. So it's very high grade for open pitable near surface oxide mineralization. So we have very robust production profile, especially in those first 5 years. So we'd be producing about 18 million ounces a year, silver equivalent, and your cash cost would be below $10 an ounce. And that's your all-in sustaining cash cost. So this is a very high margin project. The overall CapEx came in below $400 million US. We had done a very robust estimate there. Over 80% of the capital costs were based on actual quotations. And so, yeah, overall, very happy. When you look at the economics here, I'd say close to current silver and gold prices. This project already has $1 billion Canadian net present value, which equals about $1.80 per share. And so we're still trading at a very deep discount. We're trading close to 40 cents per share Canadian today. So we're trading at 0.2 times NAV. And we think there's, a lot of upside here based on additional drilling, a lot of ways that we can further improve the economics of that pre-feasibility study. And yeah, thankfully now we're fully funded to explore those opportunities in a lot more detail.
Yeah, you've done what you said when we recorded the investment case, and it's even better. I mean, this is like fantastic to me. You released it on a day when silver went down 4-5%, though, so a bit of a give and take. But nevertheless, I think this is an excellent opportunity for people who haven't invested yet to make up their minds, right? So let's talk about the strategic investment. First of all, can you give some background on how this came together? I'm sure you've spoken with many strategics here, or engaged with many companies. How did Kinross and Central Puerto become the two you decided to go with?
Yeah. So look, we've had lots of interest from various parties, but yeah, I'd say both Kinross and Central Puerto, right from the onset, since we started discussions with them, have always shown a very serious interest. And of course, they're both very blue chip companies. So we're very excited to welcome them as shareholders and now strategic partners. But yeah, essentially from our perspective, both, we're raising $20 million Canadian here, spread equally. So 10 million from Kinross, 10 million from Central Puerto. They'd each be acquiring a 4% equity stake in us. But importantly as well, we're forming, in addition to just a strategic equity investment, we're forming committees with both companies. So there's going to be sort of a technical committee, technical advisory committee with both Kinross and Central Puerto. And so that's going to be very helpful for us, relying on their expertise as we move this project forward. And then with Central Puerto, which is of course Argentina's largest utility company. They're the largest electricity provider in Argentina. They're looking at building solar farms in northwestern Argentina, in Salta, Catamarca, and other provinces. And so we're having a separate committee established with them as well, sort of on looking at more of the operational side of things. So it's not just money we're receiving here. This is, where we're getting obviously enough funds now to be able to fully fund us through to a construction decision, but also importantly, I think where it's a start of a partnership here, where we could collaborate with blue chip companies here and help move Diablillos forward as quickly, as efficiently as possible towards that construction decision.
Yeah, so just to give some people background here on Kinross first. So Kinross, do they have any other interests in Argentina largely right now, or is this this is their entry that they are using you guys,
Exactly.
the excellent team here with David on site in Salta to find new projects and also of course the already baked in projects.
Exactly. So this is their first entry into Argentina. So we're very happy to have them on board here. And as part of the deal as well, so they're investing directly in shares of Abra, the parent company, but also we announced then a formation of a regional partnership with Kinross. So as we're both looking to grow, we think Argentina has a tremendous amount of geological potential. That hasn't changed. But importantly, as the new administration now is making investment within the country much more attractive, we believe we'll be jointly looking at additional acquisition opportunities with Kinross. As part of this deal, they'll have a right of first offer to acquire 50% of any new projects that we identify and acquire in Argentina. And so again, it's a collaborative strategic sort of partnership here, having them as an investor in Abra, but then also relying on their expertise as well, and using Dave and his knowledge and our team's knowledge, to identify opportunities. We think there's a lot of additional growth ahead of us here.
Right, and could you speak to Central Puerto's, interest and willingness to continue to invest into Abra if it's needed in the future?
Yeah. So of course they're a utility company, and so this is a passive investment for them, and so they're not looking to establish themselves as a miner and build mines, of course, but they're looking again. They're of course the largest utility energy provider in all of Argentina. They're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, well over $1.5 billion US market cap. So this is a premier blue chip, high quality company. And they're, of course, very, very bullish on Argentina. They see mining as being, increasing the electricity demands within country. And they're obviously positioning themselves very wisely here. As Diablillos will be built, in the pre-fees, we had assumed a 20 megawatt solar farm will be built. And so we could rely heavily on their expertise to help us advance things on the power side. And again, as we look to additional growth opportunities in Argentina as well, happy for Central Puerto to be part of those discussions. A high caliber team there. They're very bullish on Argentina, and this is their first investment in the mining space, as far as I'm aware. Another great endorsement of our project and fabulous partnership for us.
Right. So I mean, you have the Abra-Kinross partnership there, and could you outline to me, I mean, more broadly, because it does alter your strategy, right? Because previously you didn't have sufficient capital to consider acquiring new projects. You needed capital to advance the Diablillos, but now things change. Can you explain your vision with the Kinross partnership, what you're hoping to execute on in the coming year, let's say?
Sure. So the 20 million we're raising is going towards Diablillos for all intents and purposes. And so, the biggest value driver for our shareholders remains unchanged. It's, of course, growing Diablillos, de-risking it, advancing it, getting it towards that construction decision stage. So without question, that's priority number one for us. The funding here enables us to complete the next phase of drilling, We expect that's going to be roughly 20,000 meters. I mean, we're finalizing the drill budget now, drill campaign. We expect to have some news there coming up within the next few weeks. But yeah, this pays for, helps us fund the next exploration phase, and then eventually sort of the bankable feasibility study, etc. So we'd be fully funded to get to the construction decision stage. But yeah, in addition now, as we look at additional opportunities in Argentina, having Kinross as a potential strategic partner there, and we can maybe jointly work on acquisitions, that opens up just the window of opportunities that we're seeing in Argentina. So it's great. Doesn't really change our mandate. Our mandate is to add value by advancing Diablillos, but it just gives us additional optionality as we identify undervalued acquisition opportunities. We now have a partner, a very high caliber partner, of course, that could help us maybe become more active on the M&A side of things as we look to grow.
And it sounded like it's not Central Puerto is not directly part of this, but they're willing to entertain also being a financial player in potential acquisitions. So
correct.
Putting in some cash.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they're not miners, so they don't have a right of first offer to buy a interest directly at the project level, but they'll have a seat at the table, and so they'll be made aware of opportunities as they arise. And yeah, as an important shareholder for us, I think they could provide their expertise and potentially additional capital if that comes up in the future.
I just want to say to begin with that both Kinross and Central sent their geologists out to review the project. And the mandate for the Kinross geologists was to see, they were happy with the PFS and the size of the resource on which the PFS is based, but they wanted to see if there's potential to expand. And they went away saying, yes, there's great potential to expand at Diablillos, and that's why they've done the deal with us. And part of the objective of the next drilling program is to see how big this system is. And that's what they're going to be pushing towards. While we head towards the bankable feasibility study, they want to see how big the bankable feasibility study should be. That's one aspect. And the other is that Central, they sent a geologist, a consultant out, Diego, to have a look at our project. Apparently, Central have been looking for 2 years to invest in mining in Argentina, and we are the first project that they saw that stood up to their criteria for something that has the potential that they want. So I think they both did their homework and they both done deals with us, which says a lot about our project. So now we're going to be planning a drilling program based on heading towards the definitive feasibility study and expanding the resource base for the whole project.
Yeah, and we'll shortly get into the use of proceeds, how you're thinking, kind of high level. But I just want to ask first, what kind of flavor of project? Because Kinross has an interest; they want scale, generally speaking. So new projects, what are the profile of ideas that you think are attractive and or you might be considering with Kinross?
Yeah, no, it covers the gambit. I mean, we're not specifically targeting, advanced stage projects or anything like that. We're looking for opportunities where clearly there's exploration upside. Of course, that's where our expertise comes in. That's where we add value, and so looking for underexplored opportunities where we think with some additional capital and some additional knowledge that we would bring to the table, looking to expand project, obviously get it up to significant size, scale like we have at Diablillos. But yeah, we'd consider earlier stage opportunities, advanced stage, potentially operating assets. I don't think we're defining so much, the focus on specific stages of projects. We just want something that we feel that we could grow specifically through exploration and obviously add value.
And I recall, David, maybe you want to interject before I ask you this question.
I think, we're in Salta. We're happy with Salta. The government of Salta is very pro-mining. There's been a lack of exploration in the whole of Argentina, but as well as in Salta. And so there are opportunities ranging from grassroots to more advanced. And we've already been reviewing those, and we haven't been in a position to allocate any capital to those because we've been focused so much on Diablillos. But now we see these opportunities as something that we can get a hold of, maybe. So we'll be expanding our horizons mainly in Salta, but of course looking over the borders into other provinces. But we want to concentrate on provinces, the ones beginning with S, Santa Cruz, Salta, and San Juan. Those are the ones that are pro-mining, basically.
Right. Well, it's endlessly interesting. Maybe I can ask you a cheeky question, John, and David yourself. What do you think the likelihood is that you would execute on this arrangement? Actually fold in, tuck in another project for the rest of this year. Do you think it's very likely, or out of 10, maybe you could give me a number?
No, it's always hard to handicap that. I mean, I'd say we want to become aggressive. We want to be more active, continue to grow the company. But yeah, again, there's always, it has to make sense first and foremost for our shareholders. Same thing with Kinross on their side. And then, of course, there's the party on the other side. So these things are next to impossible, I'd say, to predict probability on. But yeah, no, we have a number of opportunities identified, and so we'll be working hard behind the scenes. I'd say for us, whether or not we're successful on landing additional acquisition opportunities, I mean, there's a huge amount of value to be unlocked at Diablillos. So again, we're not going to lose focus of that. That's priority number 1, 2, and 3, in my opinion, is drilling Diablillos, advancing it, growing it. And then on top of that, if we can add in some additional high quality assets, then we'll be happy to do that. But yeah, from my perspective, whether or not we do something on that stage, I think the key opportunity for us is moving Diablillos forward, and that's how we're going to unlock maximum value for our shareholders for sure.
Although we do look over the fence yearningly at the grass that might be greener. I do anyway.
It's going to be some pretty damn green grass then, David.
Yeah, exactly. So we have M&A in our DNA, to be honest. I mean, we're always looking at acquisition opportunities. Myself, I'm in corporate development, sort of my entire career, and Dave as well has been extremely active, obviously within the space. So we're always evaluating opportunities, and yeah, we'll see where that leads us. But it's great to have that additional flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're not willing to dilute all of the baked-in value, which is already very undervalued to NAV out in the PFS significantly. But now you have these two partners. You're going to pitch them. You're going to try to arrange something that's fairly non-dilutive, I would take. And if that's the case, you're willing to execute. So I think that's, exactly. I mean, it's extremely positive, right? So let's just talk about the use of proceeds.
Sure.
20 million CAD. First of all, what's the drilling cost as of the latest? Because it changes with the FX rate. Sure. So what's the latest drilling cost per meter all in?
Yeah, I'd say it's still roughly $400 US per meter, plus or minus at most 10%. So it's roughly $400 per meter. So with let's say an additional 20,000 meter drill campaign would cost roughly $8 million US. So just over 10 to 11 million Canadian. And so that's sort of the size of the program. Again, we're finalizing things. So, obviously no definitive decisions has been made until we present it to the board and receive board approval. But yeah, similar size to what we did at phase 3. So our phase 3 drill campaign where we identified Jack, we drilled 110 holes, shallow holes, 200 meters each. And so, yeah, similar size campaign, but I think importantly, this time we're going to, again, be stepping out further away even from Oculto. So we already have Oculto and Jack. We already have robust economics there. And so Phantasma and Alpaca and these other sort of satellite deposits are important for us. But we want to take a broader look. The land package has these untapped, high risk, high reward / sort of deposits that we've identified that we haven't drilled in the past, and I think we'll certainly be drilling those within the coming months ahead here.
I might just say that there's at Diablillos is the epithermal camp that we've been exploring for the last 4 years or so. And there's also a porphyry camp, which we haven't touched. We've fooled around with it. We've done surface work, and we've had consultants have a look at it. And we've been tempted to drill it, but we haven't, for two reasons. One is it's porphyry, and it's probably, if it's there at all, it will be sulfides. Well, we know it's there because it's outcropping. But it'll be sulfides. We don't know what the grade is. And two, it hasn't been a priority because of exactly that. We've been prioritizing oxide, cyanide leachable resources, and we have this sulfide potential, which is there that we haven't touched.
Yeah. Just before we get into a bit more detail on the drilling, can I just ask, just to set the floor for everyone now, what will the cash balance be ballpark? Is it like 24-25 million CAD post-transaction?
Exactly. Yep, that's right.
Right. And non-drilling costs to DFS, including DFS, including heap leaching studies, including corporate G&A. What's the kind of ballpark number you're thinking for all non-drilling costs until the construction readiness, essentially?
Until so to get to the bankable feasibility study?
Yes, and including the cost for the feasibility.
Yeah, say $3.5 million US, so call it 5 million Canadian gets us there. Okay,
so you're saying with a comfortable amount of cash to definitely be very active. So on the drilling side, you're saying 20,000 meters, somewhere around there.
Yep.
It's not last time we were talking infill contra expansion. Now you have Kinross. You have two new investors, right? And they are leaning towards, okay, how big is this? So it sounds like you pivoted to more expansion-focused drilling at the Diablillos. Could you explain the how much infill you're going to do and what your goals are for that amount, what you expect to see, and the expansion? Can you outline where you're going to be drilling and your expectations for it as well?
Sure. So yeah, from a high level, I'd say about 10% maybe of the next phase of exploration will be focused on infill drilling, and that's identifying more mineralization within Oculto and Jack. And so Dave can give you some more color there. But I'd say 90% of the budget will be allocated towards, again, these other satellite deposits, Jack North, Phantasma, Alpaca, which Dave can walk you through, immediately around Oculto and Jack. And these are pits that could potentially all come together. So these could all coalesce. I mean, so these are, a couple 100 meters away from the existing mineralization. You're trying to develop new zones that have higher grade that could come into the mine plan. So that's going to be a key focus for us, of course. And then these new zones, potentially to the north and northeast, from the Porphyry camp and this new Jasperoid target. I'll let Dave walk you through that. That's going to be important, and that's going to be dependent on success. We're going to be drilling that, of course. If we hit high grades there, then that all of a sudden becomes a focus. But we'll certainly be testing those zones, and then we can upsize the drill campaign if needed to more thoroughly evaluate the upside there. But yeah, maybe Dave, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I think that I mean when we discovered Jack, which was getting on for 18 months ago now, I guess, we had 2 drill rigs operating at Oculto to expand the high-grade measured resource there. When we discovered Jack, we took both rigs off of Oculto and put them onto Jack and spent a year grid drilling that and getting it to a resource category or reserve category. Within the Whittle pit of Oculto itself, there are holes which are separated by 100 meters distance. Those holes are not in the resource because of the lack of continuity. It would be irresponsible of us not to carry on where we left off, at least to expand the resource within the Whittle pit that is going to be mined anyway. Now, we're not going to put a lot of money, a lot of percentage of the drilling onto that. But we should expand the obvious low-hanging fruit there because it's going to add significantly to the resource for the PFS. But as John just mentioned, the peripheral zones which could connect with Oculto, such as Phantasma and Alpaca, There are targets out there that are to be drilled or should be drilled to expand the resource for the PFS within a year or so. And then now that we are in this position of having enthusiastic partners with loads of money, we'll be looking at some of the higher risk but more interesting targets, which are beyond, say, a kilometre distance from the pit. They're not things that are going to be included in the open pit, but they are targets that could generate resources, such as the Porphyry camp and an area called Jasperoid, where we want to. We have some conceptual targets there which are very easy to test, and we have not yet tested because they hadn't fitted. They didn't fit the plan up until now, but now they will fit the plan.
Right, so for the Jasperoid target, we spoke about that last time. The Porphyry camp we spoke about last time. To start, what do you need to verify these targets? How many? What kind of investment are we talking about to test them and see? Okay, are they any good, so to speak?
The Porphyry camp, there's a very large alteration zone associated with porphyry style mineralization, quartz sericite alteration, which is at least 2 kilometers long by at least 1 kilometer across, which includes two key parts, which are called Cerro Blanco and Cerro Viejo. We had Dr. Richard Sillito come out and have a look at it, and he verified the fact that it's a very valuable target. He identified the fact that there is D-type veining, porphyry-type veining within the peripheral the peripheral host rock of progenitor porphyry. Now, we've had various experts, including Kinross, for example, walking over it and giving their opinions on it. And the general consensus seems to be that the porphyry target, the intrusive itself, is between 300 and 400 meters deep. Now, there hasn't been drilling to test that target. The plan is, or the sensible approach is to have a look at the clay alteration pattern over that alteration zone associated with porphyry, and see where the highest temperature clay alteration is, which should be directly above a porphyry. Once we've done that sort of surface work, we'll bang in a few deeper holes to look for porphyry. I mean, one previous expert said we should be drilling around about 700-meter deep holes. Another has said the porphyry is between 340 and 400 meters deep. So we know there's a porphyry down there somewhere. We don't know how well it's mineralized and how big it is. What we do know is it is mineralized because there's more than 600 meters of previous drilling in a series of shallow holes, which, if you accumulate them, put them together, goes over 0.2 grams per ton gold with the copper leached out. We know the copper's been leached out because it forms patinas of chalcocite over the primary sulfides in the chips that you see on the surface. The previous exploration, going back decades, hasn't been well recorded or the data well looked after. We have one core hole in the entire system there of about a dozen scattered shallow holes, and so we need to get more systematic and professional on this, basically.
So it sounds like surface work plus drilling, $1 million to verify the target. I mean, 2 deep holes is short of $1 million, and then some extra surface work probably brings you there, right?
That's probably about right. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to drill one hole and assume that you've tested it. You've got to get a sequence of targets. For example, there's one breccia zone there. We call it the Big Black Breccia, which is it's highly anomalous in molybdenum. It's going up to over 800 parts per million molybdenum, as well as 3 or 4 grams of gold. But it's a breccia zone associated with a porphyry system. That hasn't yet it's been drilled, but the hole that was drilled, it was, in our opinion, badly conceived, and that's another target to drill. We don't want to be drilling breccia pipes, but we want to see how the breccia pipes fit into the associated porphyry system, basically.
And you're right, Gorm. I guess, in terms of budgets, financially, these holes are not going to break the bank. I mean, each hole could be on average about $200,000 or so US, depending on obviously the ultimate depth. So you can test 2, 3, 4 of these holes with, well under $1 million and have a much better sense. So that's what we'll be doing initially. And then depending on the results of those holes, then we'll obviously figure out how much more money to allocate to these targets. So yeah, overall low cost, low risk up front, but potential game changers here. If there's now more mineralization outside of the epithermal camp that we've been focused on up till now, that could really, really change things for us. And so, yeah, I think it's money that's going to be well worth it here.
And it sounds like Kinross obviously wanted you to test this target. They took a look at it, they wanted to test it, and I think the target makes, not just because you got the money, but Kinross is interested in it. If it's successful, you're able to structure something there, I would take it. Last time you said, David, you considered doing joint ventures on that, but it was too complicated, as you said, because it's too close to... but now maybe they're a shareholder, it could be feasible. Is that right?
Yeah, it's all in the same basket now. So there won't be a conflict. It's we have the joint venture.
Yeah, exactly. That's excellent. And the Jasperoid target, could you remind everyone what the conceptual idea is there, David? Again, you did walk through it last time, but maybe you can refresh and say, what it takes to test that as well.
Well, there's been maybe 6 geologists give their opinion, and we have 12 different opinions now. Nobody's really knows what it is, but everyone recognizes the fact that it's a very interesting target. It's got associated gold with it, and it warrants drilling. But I think that it's an exhalative deposit which came up a fault zone, and the fault zone is represented by a north-south linear low magnetic anomaly, which we didn't know about until we did the mag survey. That's something new that's added to the little plan there. And so the model is it came up this steeply dipping north-south fault zone, and then spread out shallowly dipping towards the west on this Jasperoid, which is really it's a silicious. It's something like a 10 or 20 meter thick, I guess, silicious zone with anomalous gold dipping down towards a drill rig, which got very good gold results in the middle of nowhere, and we don't know how that fits into anything. So it's a conceptual target, basically. But a conceptual target with a couple of interesting gold shots in it.
Both for the Porphyry and for the Jasperoid target. Could you quote an approximate, definite successful drill hole? What really confirms? The Porphyry will be a bit deeper, so what kind of grades would you say, this is interesting for us, Kinross really likes this, for example, and the Jasperoid target, what will make you say, we got to drill more here for both respective targets?
We've just done a couple of weeks ago a surface channel sampling exercise, which I've been nagging for a long time to do, and everyone's been so scared about spending money until now. But now we've done the channel sampling. We'll see what the results of that would turn out to be, and we plan 3 holes in advance of getting the results. We know where we want to drill 3 shallow holes. We'll start off drilling shallow holes because this thing outcrops, and we want to see what it looks like. Not too deep, and we think that it's dipping at around about 30 to 40 degrees to the west, so we'll step off to the west and drill a few shallow holes into it, and then based on that we'll plan it'll be a staged program. Based on that we'll plan an extra program, but we will drill one other hole. We have this hole, as I mentioned, it's a reverse circulation hole that we don't have any confidence in at all. It's historical, and it got 2 meters actually, or was it 1.5 meters? Anyway, it got something like, say, 2 meters of 76 grams of gold in 2 meters, but in rock chips in reverse circulation, and got other intercepts at depth as well. So we want to drill a twin hole there to see what it actually is. We want to get a diamond hole into it to have a look at it, because you can't make anything out of it from a historical reverse circulation hole. And maybe that fits in with this model. Maybe that fits in with this whole Jasperoid and western extension of the Jasperoid, because it's about 250 meters to the west. So Jasperoid outcrop and west is where we're going to be exploring.
With the Porphyry, David, if I may ask, just to give another parameter, what kind of depth do you think interesting mineralization might start to occur at the Porphyry, just so people know what to expect?
What kind of depth of the Porphyry system?
Yeah, so how deep down do you think an actual interesting, worthwhile, economic Porphyry mineralization will start? Because you said the copper was leached at surface. So when do you think a transition to a more fully mineralized system occurs at Porphyry targets? Is it too early to say, or give a sense?
How deep you go depends on how high the grade is. But I would imagine that 300 meters plus is where you might expect to find the mineralization.
Okay. And then I would like to ask, just general, I mean, the board hasn't approved yet, but let's say you're going to do 20,000 meters. How many rigs are you bringing in? When do you expect to start? When do you expect to be done with it? And what's the sequencing of the different targets being tested? Preliminarily.
Yeah, so minimum 2 rigs. I mean, we've always had 2 rigs in the past, so we'll start off with 2 rigs and likely consider adding a third, I'd say at some stage as well. So yeah, no, we want to be aggressive here. We feel it's the right time, right market conditions now that we're cashed up. So we're going to go full throttle, finalizing that with 2 rigs. The drill campaign would take us just under 10 months. So we'd be finished in Q1 of next year, 2025. Of course, with a third rig, you could accomplish, realistically completing it around year end this year. So yeah, looking to, and again, with various rigs, you're drilling multiple targets at once. I said they're all going to be 90% of the exploration meters here are going to be on step out targets, not focus on Occulto and Jack. Sequencing we haven't finalized yet, but yeah, I mean, it's iterative. So you could start off somewhere and then maybe move somewhere else. So it's always hard to predict sequencing. But yeah, obviously looking for the highest grade opportunities to drill those out as soon as possible within the next program.
I mean, our idea here is that we'll have 3 rigs. We'll have 2 big rigs, as we had before, to do systematic drilling, and we'll have a third rig, which is a smaller rig. It's a third of the cost of the big rigs, and we'll use that as reconnaissance. So we'll be going from one project to another with the reconnaissance rig, and if we find anything, or when we find something, we will bring in the big rig to do systematic testing.
Okay, and I think generally the oxide targets they're generally shallow drilling. You kind of get through them quite quickly, but the Joker targets, I mean, the Porphyry, it's a big commitment to put a rig there. It's going to be stuck there for many weeks in a row when you start drilling. So when do you think that would sequence in? Mainly the non-standard targets here, the Jasperoid, the Porphyry. Would that be later, or when do you think it will slot in and test those?
No, not necessarily. No, I mean, all of this will be done over the next few months. Again, we haven't finalized sort of timing of when we're going to be sequencing different targets. So it's we'll discuss that internally with the board. We'll announce a press release once all that's finalized. But yeah, it's within the next few months here. All of these targets are going to be tested.
And again, when do you expect to start drilling?
In 2 weeks' time.
Within a few weeks. Yeah, within a few weeks. So again, subject to board approval and all of that, we should be up and running very, very shortly here.
Right, and a press release will be announced before then. I take it with the initial plan, or so to speak.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, that's very good. I wanted to ask now, because since you're doing mostly expansion drilling, right? The reserve will probably not go up as much as it did from the last program for the DFS. So, are you thinking to potentially deferring the DFS then to then have another program with Infill, or will you just do the DFS and say we have this big resource, it will come into the mine life later, essentially in the DFS?
No, definitely not looking to defer anything. I mean, so right now the overall M&I resource was about 260 million ounces of silver. 210 of that already made it into the reserve. So the vast majority is already now in the reserve, with an additional 10 or 20 holes infill drilling we feel we could really get maximum value there in terms of converting the additional resource that has not been included into the reserve. So yeah, that's not going to take very long. It's not going to cost much at all. And so yeah, that's still part of the plan. So looking to infill drill again, maybe 10% or so of the overall campaign will be focused on that. And then we feel at that stage, Puerto and Jack would likely sufficiently drilled for the bankable feasibility study. And then, of course, as we found Jack, hoping to find another several million tons. So I would say the goal is to expand the overall resource to north of 300 million ounces on a silver equivalent basis with this upcoming drill campaign. So you could add a significant amount of ounces here in a relatively short amount of time, again, as we look to complete the next phase of exploration here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it doesn't seem like you're thinking that it's in the cards to potentially revise the scale of the mining and plant upwards in the DFS. It's going to be the current throughput or close to it. Is that right?
Unless there are significant discoveries made, which could be game changers. So Jasperoid and other targets. I mean, Jasperoid, for instance, is open for 2 kilometers. So if we start hitting mineralization there, that's a game changer type discovery, I'd say. Whereas, yeah, if we're infill sort of drilling Phantasma and Alpaca, and we find a few million tons there of higher grade, that just gets added into the existing mine plan. So you would probably not consider upsizing the plant for those targets. So yeah, it really depends how successful we are with some of these unknown exploration targets that we'll be drilling.
Right. So I mean, and do you expect the Jasperoid target to, or that mineralization to be amenable or work with the envisioned flow or the envisioned circuit, the processing plant?
Dave, what would you say there?
I'm assuming the Jasperoid target to be added into the oxide resource. Is that the question?
No. That it can be processed. The mineralization in the Jasperoid target can be easily processed with the same circuit that you're envisioning for the oxides.
It's pretty well unknown, but I mean, there's no reason why the upper oxide part should not be cyanide leachable. We haven't done any testing at all. Obviously, no metallurgy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but people know that might be an opportunity then. So it's all. I mean, in an event of serious success on some of these targets, then you might defer the DFS then. I mean, you would have to. I mean, if you drill a couple of holes into the Jasper, you have to expand the program and infill to get it into a resource, right? So that's the permutations. How does the timeline look in a default case where that doesn't happen? You reach your 300 million ounce equivalent target. Is everything? Can you explain post this program, let's say Q1 next year as a base case? What does it look like to get to the construction readiness? What's your newest estimate?
Yeah, so again, I'd say that has not changed for us. I mean, next year, 2025, we expect to have completed this exploration phase in early 2025. Of course, even later this year, we'll start working on additional test work. We'll be doing metallurgical test work, etc. Some more detailed engineering behind the scenes to help advance the bankable feasibility study with the goal of announcing that study by the end of 2025. And also on the permitting side, submitting the EIA application this quarter. So in Q2 of 2024, we'll be submitting that important application. We expect to have those permits approved by the end of 2025. So that's really a key milestone for us. By the end of next year, we expect to have another drill campaign completed, added additional ounces, a bankable or definitive feasibility study essentially completed, and permits in place. And then subject to sort of financing, you can make a construction decision sometime in early 2026. So we're less than 2 years away, I'd say, from having a construction-ready project where you can start shovels in the ground. And so I'd say that's a realistic timeline, and we'll obviously fully fund it now to get to that.
And just briefly as well, the Heap Leach component, which you discussed. I mean, when do you expect to communicate that to the markets, or you're going to endeavor on some studies so there? And what?
That'll be going on in parallel. As we're drilling here, we'll be doing some additional met test work. That could take about 4 months So later on this year, say in Q3 or so, we expect to have that announcement made, where we're looking again. That's some of the waste material that was treated as waste in the pre-fees could actually come into the mine plan. So yeah, we expect that work to take 4 to at most 6 months, but that's in parallel as we're drilling, as we're doing everything else. And then again, that is going to go ultimately into the bankable fees. So, you know, if that's successful. So that's working towards, again, advancing the economic studies.
And then we should not forget La Coipita. David, could you share how things are proceeding there?
Yeah, Tech finished their program, their drilling. They drilled in the same general area of Yaretas where we drilled our holes, but at other targets around. They drilled shallow holes, which was a different approach. Apparently their approach was to drill holes down to 500 meters to check the alteration system to see where the best alteration is before they plan any deeper holes. Now, there is they sort of let slip that they got some potassic alteration in one of the holes. I won't go into any details on that, I guess, but they've also been drilling other targets. I mean, they've been preparing other targets for drilling. They've done IP on 2 separate targets. One of them 7 kilometers north of Yaretas, and another one called Valle Hermoso, where we did some reconnaissance exploration and found outcropping chalcopyrite, but more importantly, bornite, which shows possibly a higher temperature mineralization. They've done IP over that. They've put in a road, and that's a planned drill target for next year. They're getting ready to drill for next year, and next year. The chances are they might be drilling before the end of this year. It depends on the climate, basically.
Okay, so just to crystallize, how many holes has been drilled now? Have they received assays yet? Do you expect to be able to press release some information, or what's the status?
We haven't received assays yet. They did have plans for 9 holes, and I think they drilled 7 of those. They had a budget of 3,000 meters, which is a strange way of doing business. Basically, when you have a short field season, you might as well drill until the end of the field season. But they drilled their 3,000 meters, and then they had to go back with their begging bowl to the directors, I guess. So they just closed up and left after they drilled 3,000 meters, which is not what we would have done. But nevertheless, they are more bureaucratic than we are.
Right, and you said at least one hole with very promising alteration, and
one of them seems to have, yes.
Right, and assays. Last time you said you would be able to share them because it's material information for Abra. Obviously, when do you expect that would be? In how many months or how many weeks do you think it's?
We're hoping in Q2. I mean, we're hoping by the end of Q2 we should have back at least the initial assays. So yeah, by the end of this quarter, having some updated information that we could share at that time.
Okay, and then if they're able to do it later this year, what have they communicated so far? What's the scope of the next phase? It might be this fall in European sense, or it might be next year. What's the?
As I understand it, they're getting ready to drill before the end of this year, and as I say, it depends on when the snows stop, basically. But it seems to me that they'll be looking to drill in October.
Okay. A similar scope to the first program, or is it more reactive this time, maybe?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd say we don't know. It's entirely at their discretion. They haven't advised us yet, so we don't want to speculate on that.
Okay, gentlemen, I think that gives a pretty solid update. Again, congratulations. Excellent seeing this, you being funded and able to continue generate value for shareholders with a drill bit. I think that's relieving to see, and I think the case is as strong as it's ever been at this point. Right? So,
excellent. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Glenn.
I agree. It's a very exciting time for our company. Lots of news flow ahead of us here. We expect to have a very strong news flow in the second half of this year as we're drilling, advancing this. So yeah, happy to provide you with more updates as needed.